Hello, everybody. Welcome to World Sports Talk. And today we brought Nishant, who is our NFL expert, because you guys didn't like the last NFL tier list video. We brought a person who knows NFL better than Ömer, and we kicked Ömer out. So there you go, Nishant.
I'm glad to be strike two. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So rather than a simple tier list, I think it would be fun to talk about these in categories I feel like we're all, familiar with. So this first category that I'm going to talk about is similar to the F tier or whatever S tier. I'm not too familiar with tiers, but I'm going to call it Chiefs and Friends. And the first team, obviously, that's going to go into this category, let's skip up that, is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. And the reason I named this Chiefs and Friends is because there's nobody else in this tier. That's it. That's the complete thing. The Chiefs don't have any friends. And the reason they don't have any friends is because I think both the fans and the league are getting sick of the Chiefs, similarly to how they got sick of the Patriots years and years ago. And at the time that the Chiefs entered this stratosphere of the league and being one of the best teams, the best team in the league, I think they were rooted for because people thought Mahomes could take down Brady, but they created possibly an even bigger monster. So Chiefs, no friends. The other teams probably hate them as well. And we all know that the fans are getting a little bit tired of their success.
Fair point.
Fair point. So I would put them up top. I also think, just as a side note, I mean, the Chiefs, we're it's the middle of the offseason, and we're seeing Travis Kelce on stage at Taylor Swift's concerts, and we're seeing some vitriol towards him because of that as well. And I just think that they've blown up to the level that everyone wants to see them taken down. And so that's going to be the first tier. The second tier that I'm going to do is this one, which is It Would Be Cool. These are two teams that I think it would really be awesome to see them win a Super Bowl for different reasons. First one, obviously, is going to be the Lions, who got very, very close. And the second one is going to be the Dolphins. So I'm going to explain this real quick. It would be cool. I think most people would love seeing these teams be successful, but for one reason or the other, we haven't seen it yet and might not ever. So in the Dolphins case, I mean, I read a thing the other day that was like this: the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game was every other team in Miami and in Florida has been more successful since that point in time. And with Mike McDaniel, who is, I think, the most fun coach to root for in the league. He's an eclectic personality. He's high energy. He generates several meme moments per week. He is just a guy that you want to see do well. It hasn't happened yet. And honestly, the past few years, we've seen a trend lately with the Dolphins tearing up the regular season. They are just absolutely, wiping the floor with people early in the year, and which makes sense. You have a warm weather team. They're favored at home, way more so in that warm weather. As you get into those colder months, then especially last year, you get them playing the Chiefs in negative degree weather, and what happened. And so the Dolphins have been a victim of both circumstance, and I think, probably not the best preparation for down the stretch. So we're all hoping we can see them be healthier and continue those weeks 1 through 4 dominance as we get down and win that playoff game and go further. But I haven't seen it happen yet. And the Lions, I think everyone wanted to see them beat the 49ers, and I'm no exception. I was really rooting for them in that game. But with the 49ers, you felt this, doomed feeling when it came to them. So that's the second group. And I think we want to see them do well. The third group, I'm going to be calling broken window. These are the teams that it's up in the air if their window is closed yet. We're always talking about these, teams where is their window to win the Super Bowl closed? Are they going to be able to get it done? They've had so much success lately. And these are all, for all intents and purposes, good teams. Like, they have been good teams year in and year out. But they're teams that haven't necessarily gotten the ball done. Obviously, the Eagles have the Super Bowl win, but, their second window is kind of what we're talking about more so here. So with these 4 teams in particular, I think we look at this and say, okay, well, the Ravens were arguably the most dominant team in the league last year at various points in time, had huge wins over juggernauts like the 49ers, and they weren't just beating these teams, they were blowing them out. And the problem that we saw later on is that when they did have those blowout wins, how do they handle adversity? And when they did finally handle adversity, it wasn't well. And so you look at these teams, you look at the Ravens in particular, and you say they've done everything in the regular season to prove who they are and who they should be. But in the playoffs, it just hasn't happened to the stretch. And they've won playoff games, but it's that last hurdle. Can they get past that last hurdle? And last year's team, I don't know if they get better than that. I'm not saying the window's closed. That's why it's up in the air. But it's starting to look like what more can they do to prove they can win the Super Bowl? And until you beat the Chiefs, that's just not a thing that can happen, although all the other teams have that record. Um, the Bengals, I think, are also another interesting case for a different reason. The Bengals actually have beaten the Chiefs, and several times at that. The Bengals' problem isn't that they can't get the job done; it's that they're not healthy enough to get the job done. And by them, I mean Joe Burrow. Their quarterback has had injury problems, year after year after year. And it's at the point now where we're thinking, like, I mean, do they draft another quarterback at this point? Do they have a better insurance policy as a backup? Because it gets to a point where, like, you have the tools to get it done. You have the roster to get it done. But now some of those core players, Joe Mixon going to Houston, he's been in the backfield for a long, long time. And, you have some of that wide receiver depth going away as well. And I think that, like, you're getting to the point with the Bengals where you need to figure out something. You need to have some sort of insurance policy. So that's my take on that. The 49ers have, I think, what should be the most dominant roster in the NFL. I mean, by far. And, as someone from Seattle, Seahawks fan, like, it's painful to play the 49ers because they're probably going to wipe the floor with us every time. And that's how most teams feel because they're an absolute juggernaut. Like, every single position group is completely accounted for, except maybe the quarterback. But, Purdy had his moments. Again, it's a similar question to the Ravens, but it's like, what more can you do to prove that you can win? And again, it's that question of, can you beat the Chiefs? And with the Chiefs around, it's like the 49ers, I don't know if they can take another step up. It's seeming unlikely. And Kyle Shanahan also has his, choking struggles historically. And then we go to the Eagles, and it's like, the Eagles are kind of an amalgamation of everything I just talked about, but like another really, really strong roster that hasn't really had the success that they would like to, having had that one Super Bowl loss against the Chiefs a couple years ago. The Bills are the last team that I would put into this category. And I think the Bills have mimicked the Bills from the 90s. The Bills made 4 straight Super Bowls back then, and they lost all of them. And the Bills, these past 4 or 5 years or whatever, like, have, since Josh Allen has gotten there, have had chance after chance after chance, and haven't been able to cement that window. And so they're that team that I think, okay, this is it. I mean, Stephon Diggs, he's gone. And so with that happening, you're like, you've seen those rumors of being unsettled and whatever. The cracks are starting to show in the organization. And so I think the fans have waited and waited and waited and waited, similarly to, some of these other teams that we've talked about. I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't know what more they can do. So that's that section. The last section that I'll talk about, and I know this tier list has, other things to talk about, but the last section I want to talk about is next up. And then I'm just going to talk about just a couple teams here that I think are going to be a little bit better than expected and have an outside shot. I don't like saying dark horse because I feel like it's overused, but have that outside shot into being a little bit more successful than we think they could or should be. And so these teams I'll run through a little bit faster because I think there's less to analyze here. But talking about Joe Mixon, talking about Stephon Diggs, I think the first team we have to really bring up is the Houston Texans. And I think that the additions they've made this offseason perfectly complement the superstar in waiting that is CJ Stroud. Coming out of college, you have that question about Ohio State quarterbacks. CJ Stroud comes into the league and absolutely lights it up. And I think he was a great rookie season, and I think he takes that step up because they did their job in the offseason. The team supported him and added to his offensive arsenal. I think they're going to have really scary potential. The only thing that can hurt them is experience. So if he takes that sophomore slump, that's what's going to get him. With the Steelers, I think you have a coach that basically is allergic to losing records in Mike Tomlin, and you give him not one but 2 quarterback options. Could this be conflicting, distracting with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields? Yes, absolutely. But I think those 2, they're options, and you can technically use both of them. And with Russ in particular, he's had struggles after Seattle. Mike Tomlin is the closest you can come to a Pete Carroll in the league now. A defensive coach who really has that legacy and the longevity and everything that comes with it. And so putting him into Pittsburgh, I think is the perfect fit for Russ. And I think it's his last chance to be at that elite level that we saw so much in those years in Seattle. So I think I wouldn't count them out yet. I think the coaching quarterback combo has a shot at success. I put the Cardinals in here, which is kind of a hot take. Less on this, but I just think Jonathan Gannon is a really good decision maker. And I think that goes completely unnoticed. He is really weird, and he has all these like weird moments that we see out, off the field and stuff. And he's kind of a strange guy, but I think he's a really good decision maker. I think he single-handedly won them games last year. With those fourth down decisions, with those onside kick decisions against teams that he had no chance of beating, such as his former team, the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think there's something to watch there, especially with the duo that is going to be Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., because I think Marvin Harrison Jr. and, Ohio State bias again here. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to light up the league. And I think Kyler is the perfect one to get him to it. And again, Gannon, perfect decision maker. The Packers are the last team that I'm going to talk about here. And I think that last year they overachieved, but I think there's a chance they keep overachieving, maybe not to the level they did last year, but they keep it up. I think Jordan Love is, talk about how lucky you can be as a team with quarterbacks. You go from Brett Favre, you go to Aaron Rodgers, and then you get Jordan Love. And I think Jordan Love, I'm not saying he's going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think he has a shot to be in Green Bay for a really long time. And so that's kind of my analysis of these. You guys are wondering where are the rest of the teams. And honestly, I just think these are the most interesting to talk about. So, with our time here, I thought that was the best way to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good tier list, and it's definitely much different than what we did before. Interesting takes. We'll see if the commentators will like it. Guys, if you don't like this guy, like there's something wrong with you, okay? Like every point he made was absolutely incredible. So please,
they might age poorly, the takes, so we can check it in November.
Might is the key word. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. We'll come back to this video and see, if did he get it right, did he get it wrong. But yeah, keep watching us, keep watching our tier list, keep watching our other videos, and we'll see you on the next one.